In tonight's Business Insider, a good month for home sellers. Today, RealtyTrac, the nation's leading source for comprehensive housing data, released its March home sales report. On average, U.S. homes sold for $30,500 more than they were purchased for. That's a 17% increase. It's the best monthly gain since December of 2007, the onset of the Great Recession. Joining me with the latest is Lisa Sturtevant, president of Lisa Sturtevant and Associates and former executive director at the Center for Housing Policy. Lisa, put that 17% figure into context for us. What kind of impact will it have on the housing market this year?
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting number. You know, it really shows three things. First is that people are gaining equity back in their homes. And this is actually a pretty big bright spot in the economic recovery, this buildup of home equity. And the second thing is it just means that there's more housing market activity. So the sellers that we see in this data are finding buyers for their homes, and so they're able to take advantage of that equity growth. And then finally, I think it really reflects whenever you're looking at increases in percentages, you're looking at markets that had really seen declining prices starting to rebound, and so these price increases show up as big percentage price increases. And I think that's another thing that we're seeing with this data.
It's so nice to see this come back, because 2007, 2008, what a terrible period of time for all of us that had any kind of property.
Yeah.
Now, still, RealtyTrac noted that the uptick in distressed sales combined with affordability constraints are contributing to faltering home price appreciation in some markets, including Washington, D.C. Now, explain that.
Yeah, I think what this means is that what's happening right now is a little bit more complex than some of the sort of standard housing market indicators that we see. So we see distressed sales up modestly in some markets. Now, they're down quite a bit from last year, and they're down a lot from the first couple of years after the downturn. So distressed sales are still a very, very small portion of the market. Affordability challenges, meanwhile, continue to be a problem in some markets. And I would think that in San Francisco and in Washington, D.C., these two measures could indicate a potential softening of the market. So people might be selling their homes to the bank if they can't find a buyer, and people may not be able to find a buyer if houses have become too expensive. So I think it's a little early to draw conclusions about these markets from this one piece of information, but there are some signs that those markets could be softening.
Meanwhile, Lisa, the Commerce Department released housing starts for March. Those numbers didn't inspire a lot of confidence, falling to their lowest level since October. What happened?
Yeah, so there's a lot of mixed housing data this spring. I think we expected in 2016 to see new construction really start to ramp up. All the market fundamentals were there. Job growth was steady, wages were starting to increase. This new construction would start to meet demand, this pent-up demand that we've experienced since the downturn. But we didn't see that. We saw a decline in new construction in March, although the March number this year was higher than last year. So we're still doing better than we were last year. And I think one of the most interesting part of the story is that the new starts on the multifamily side are actually down quite a bit, which suggests that there may be some markets in which the apartment market is saturated, and that the supply is more than the demand in those markets.
Millennials are a big part of the overall equation. You and I have talked about this before. A new survey from Apartment List finds 79% of millennial renters want to own a home, but 37% of them haven't saved for a down payment. Furthermore, the average savings is less than $6,000. Does this surprise you?
Well, this is actually pretty consistent with some other information we have. The National Association of Realtors published a survey in January. It said that about 60% of first-time homebuyers find it difficult to save for a down payment, specifically because of other household debt, and student debt in particular. And so as we look at this millennial population, this potential first-time homebuyer population, even if they're getting jobs and maybe wages are increasing, they still have this other financial constraint related to debt that might keep them out of the homeownership market.
Do you expect an intervention from the Obama administration this year?
Well, you know, there's sort of an election year. There's a lot of things going on. The Obama administration has talked about ways to help individuals that have student debt. There's continued work on the side of the administration as well as Congress to create a more stable and secure mortgage market, one that balances access to credit while also mitigating any risk of potential future downturn. So I think there may be some small things, but I don't think we expect to see anything big.
Always good to hear from you. Lisa Sturtevant, president of Lisa Sturtevant and Associates. See you next time.
Thank you.